My dear beloved children, today we will talk about the influence that the mental body has on the awakening of a person. In fact, it is very large, because in the heart chakra, which is inextricably linked with it, there is a crystal of love, which is now activated in almost all people on your planet. Another thing is how the person himself manages it. Of course, many people are not even aware of its existence. And the thing is that your fourth chakra is the boundary between the lower and upper chakras. And depending on the level of a person's spiritual development or its complete absence, it takes the side of either the lower or upper chakras. This happens in accordance with the law of attraction. The prevailing vibrations of the chakras and subtle bodies of a person pull it in one direction or another. Therefore, the crystal of love can be fully activated only in those people who already have well-developed upper chakras, ready to accept the energy of such high vibrations. I know that many of you feel the crystal of love in your heart chakra almost physically, and this means that you already have it fully activated and you can use it for its intended purpose. And this appointment is to accelerate the process of awakening both for yourself and for all of humanity. Many of you have been using this tool unconsciously for a long time. Your very presence on Earth changes its vibrational background, because your high vibrations, merging with the current vibrations of the Earth, transform the energy space around you into the space of at least the fourth dimension. But if you learn to use this instrument consciously, then the process of your awakening will accelerate many times over, which will have a beneficial effect on all the people around you, familiar and unfamiliar. And although you have already been given practices for working with the crystal of love, I want to give you one more, very simple and effective, which you can use literally on the go. As often as possible, visualize your crystal of love in a rainbow color, symbolizing the energy of ascension, as well as your 7 chakras and their corresponding 7 bodies. Try to feel that it is all saturated with the energy of ascension. Due to the highest vibrations of this energy, it is more and more rarefied, turning into a huge sparkling crystal of extraordinary beauty and power. The rainbow rays emanating from it dissolve all the negative energies and programs of the people you meet on your way. His divine light penetrates into all the dark nooks and crannies of human souls, clearing the subconscious of people from all kinds of duality, which does not allow them to move along the path of ascension. Start the non-stop operation of this wonderful, powerful high vibration tool for the transformation of darkness into light, which will greatly accelerate both your awakening and the awakening of every person you meet on your way. As a result, the collective consciousness of humanity will begin to change, thereby contributing to the speedy transition of your planet into the fourth and then the fifth dimension. Today I want to draw your attention to one more circumstance that does not allow many of you to finally gain a foothold in the space of the fourth dimension. And we will talk about your unconscious internal resistance to start a new life, unknown and unusual for you. We have already talked a lot about the fear of the unknown, which is characteristic of almost every person on Earth. Those who are ready to leave their former life without regret and plunge headlong into the unknown are really few. And now I want to give you advice on how to overcome this fear and self-doubt. To do this, just imagine for a moment that you have no prospect of a new and happy life in the fifth dimension. You remain in a three-dimensional matrix that is rolling into the abyss, political, financial, social and, most importantly, moral. All human values are rapidly collapsing and nullifying in it, and people are turning into digital slaves, whose consciousness is controlled by a handful of criminals who do not have a divine soul. Do you want to live in such a world, my dear? Doesn't he scare you? Now the most important thing for you to understand is that in any case there will be no former life familiar to you. The struggle between the forces of light and darkness has entered the decisive stage of confrontation, and it will no longer be possible to reach a compromise between them. Therefore, your choice is now small: either submit to the plans of the globalists, or make a leap into the unknown world of the fifth dimension, which so far you know only by hearsay. And here is already a test of the strength of your faith, or, rather, intuition. How does your soul feel when you imagine this new beautiful world? How does she respond to your thoughts about him? With spiritual awe and warmth, or with fear and distrust? It's actually very easy to check. Say slowly and consciously, without even turning on your fantasy, "My life is in the fifth dimension," and listen to your inner feelings. Which of your chakras will respond to your words? Or maybe your entire golden triangle will react to them? You will definitely feel the response of your body to these words, not only on the subtle, but also on the physical plane. And then just as slowly say, "I remain in the 3D matrix," and compare your feelings. Surely they will be very different from each other. Such an exercise will allow you to hear your soul and follow it, and not follow the stereotype reactions of your mind that you have been developing for centuries. And repeat this exercise every time you feel fear of the future. Thus, you will gradually fix in your mind a clear intention to break out of the three-dimensional matrix forever, and without any fear you will begin to look into the future that awaits you beyond the threshold of the fourth and then the fifth dimensions. Today I want to offer you a practice for focusing your third eye on the events taking place in the world. This will allow you to see not only their outer side, but also the inner, deep essence. Since recently the confrontation between the forces of light and darkness has generated a lot of chaos and contradictions, it becomes not only difficult, but practically impossible for an ordinary person to figure out what is really happening on your planet. No matter how much information you receive from a variety of sources, both official and alternative, none of them reflects the real picture of what is happening. And this is explained by the fact that everyone who tries to analyze the latest events and give their own assessment does it from the point of view of a person of the three-dimensional world, using his mind and his ego. In addition, people are able to analyze these events, guided only by visible external manifestations, that is, those facts that lie on the surface. And what happens behind the veil on the subtle plane and even behind the scenes of the physical plane, they do not know. In addition, almost all analysts, political scientists, journalists, economists and even representatives of esoteric movements, involuntarily adjust events and facts to fit their own theories and their own vision of the world, which can no longer be objective. Therefore, my family, in order not to drown in this sea of conflicting information, I offer you the following. Since you cannot completely disconnect from the hot news that pours on you in an endless stream, first weed out those sources of information that cause you even the slightest doubt. Leave only those of them that are in tune with your soul. I'm sure many of you have already done this. And then we proceed to the practice itself, which we will call divine scanning. And that's what it is. Before you start reading or listening to any information, call on the Ascension energy and ask it to activate your third eye to the maximum. And only when you feel the manifestations of its activation on the physical plane in the form of overflowing heat or pulsations, and maybe the rotation of your sixth chakra, start reading, listening or watching what you have planned. Mentally ask your third eye to show you a comprehensive and true picture of what is happening and to weed out everything brought into it by the personality of the person who conveys this information to you. What does this practice give you? Thus, you can unconsciously, intuitively, separate the wheat from the chaff, snatching the essence of what is happening and sweeping away unnecessary details that, as a rule, are savored in the information field, acquiring conjectures, exaggerations and false information. Now on Earth there is an information battle not for life, but for death, and it is no less dangerous than military operations, since it destroys not the bodies, but the souls of people, voluntarily or involuntarily involved in the confrontation between the forces of light and darkness both on Earth and in heaven. And your task, my relatives, is not to be drawn into the whirlpool of these events, remaining a wise observer in the event that it is not in your power to change something on the physical plane. Work energetically, doing sessions and meditations to harmonize the situation for the highest good of all, leaving it up to the forces of light to decide what is good in this case and for whom. So far, it is much easier for them than for you to see the picture as a whole from a subtle plane and determine the divine expediency for each soul involved in the ongoing events. And your activated third eye can become a good helper in this, scanning the received information for hotspots that need your help in the first place, and leaving behind the scenes everything superficial and unnecessary. And so, I want to continue talking about the activation of your third eye. But this time we'll talk in more detail about how it can help you connect with people. In fact, for many of you, the third eye already helps to recognize the level of spirituality of people around you. But for the time being, you do it mostly unconsciously. Now it's time to use it consciously as a tool to penetrate into the behind the scenes, into the energy space of the person with whom you are communicating. We have talked a lot about the fact that for a person of the three-dimensional world it has already become a habit to wear a mask behind which he hides his true face. And it is not at all necessary that his real face is bad. Very often a person tries to wishful thinking, hiding his weakness and self-doubt behind this mask. In any case, it is now very rare to meet a truly sincere and open person with an open-hearted soul. People intuitively close themselves into their shell in order to avoid the danger of a rough intrusion into their lives, into their energy space, feeling the three-dimensional world as hostile and unpredictable. But the fourth dimension differs from the third in that it no longer has duality as such, and self-respect and respect for others come to the fore, which is the first step towards comprehending the laws of unity and free will in practice. But all this becomes possible only when a person manages to get rid of fear in himself in all its manifestations, of which there are a great many. Only being in safety, physical and moral, a person is able to fully open up to others, not being afraid to seem ridiculous, weak, misunderstood. The fourth dimension is precisely the preparatory stage in the life of people in such a safe energy space, which is the fifth dimension. But already now you can begin to create this blessed high vibration space around you, in which each person will feel happy and self-confident. And this is where your inner vision, your activated third eye, can help you a lot. But in order to see the essence of a person, and not what he wants to seem, you yourself need to become extremely open and sincere. Only in this way can you reach the soul of another person. In this case, the law of reflection will work. Only by showing sincerity, utmost openness and warmth towards another person, you can hope for reciprocity. And here is how your third eye can help you with this. When communicating with a person, try to attune it with the third eye of your interlocutor. And it does not matter whether he is well developed, he feels it or not. It will be enough that it enters into resonance with the high vibrations of your sixth chakra, which means that on the subtle plane, contact will be established between you already at another level, the divine, which will not be slow to affect the physical plane. Your communication will go beyond the three-dimensional world and will already acquire thin contours. A person himself will not understand what happened to him, because he will suddenly begin to perceive with understanding what previously seemed to him to be nonsense and fantasy. Of course, this may not happen immediately, but gradually. But if you master a similar way of communicating with people, both on the physical and subtle levels, you will be amazed at the results. But, of course, you should talk about ascension only with those whom you can pull up to the level of vibrations of your third eye. This skill will help you not only to develop your sixth chakra, using it in practice, but will also allow you to easily recognize human souls, which are the only ones capable of vibrating so high, which is the main condition for the transition. It is this kind of communication, my relatives, that should become the norm for those who are already firmly entrenched in the space of the fourth dimension. Today I want to give you one more piece of advice on how you can use your sixth chakra in your daily life. Since the fourth dimension is an energy space in which duality is practically absent and the energy of unity comes to the fore, relations between people take on a completely different character. But since while you are still living in a mixed energy space, plunging first into one energy, then into another, your third eye can become for you a kind of spiritual pilot, able to successfully lead you through the grounds of three-dimensionality and lead you to safe spaces of the fourth dimension. In other words, he is able to find such people and such situations that correspond to your current vibrations, thereby expanding the zones of influence on Earth of new high vibrational energies. We have already said more than once that time parameters have changed significantly in recent years and continue to change. Therefore, the laws of the universe now work in a different, accelerated, mode. The law of attraction is no exception. So, if earlier it took you years to find like-minded people, now it happens much faster. And this is explained by the fact that the new high vibration energies coming to the earth literally magnetize people, concentrating in them the energies most characteristic of them. As a result, both negative and positive properties inherent in a person become so obvious that it is no longer possible to hide them. This makes it much easier for your third eye, your intuition. If earlier you needed to look closely at another person for a long time in order to recognize his true face, now it happens almost instantly. And it doesn't matter whether you feel your sixth chakra or not. It all depends on your individual characteristics of perception of the subtle plane. In this case, the result is important. Did your intuition work or not? You already know that the higher self gives you hints with an instant impulse. The very first, your mind and your ego have not yet had time to get involved in the work, which, unlike your soul, are guided by the laws of the three-dimensional world. So, in order for you to hear the prompt of your soul, it just uses your third eye, helping you to see what will benefit you, not only spiritually, but also materially. And now you can establish a strong and inextricable connection between your soul and the sixth chakra. To do this, you need to do the following. Call on the energy of Ascension and ask it to establish a permanent channel of communication from your higher self with your sixth chakra, so that from now on you will look at the world not only with your physical eyes, but also with your third eye, your spiritual vision. Express a clear intention so that it now becomes a priority for you and confidently guides you through life. How can you determine that such a channel of communication is established? Those who feel the energies well can feel their movement in the region of their upper chakras, from the fourth to the seventh. And who is not yet available, can check it in practice, including his intuition every time you need to make a decision, and not necessarily a fateful one, even the simplest one. If you learn to catch the very first impulse without turning on your mind, and make a decision in accordance with this impulse, without logical reasoning, then such a communication channel has already been established, and the confirmation of the correctness of your decision now comes quite quickly due to the narrowing of the time frame, which we talked about at the beginning. But, as always, I give you only the main direction of your spiritual work. And then be creative, turn this new approach to your life into an exciting game, perceiving your third eye as a divine flashlight that illuminates your path to ascension. I bless you and love you beyond measure. The Father Absolute has spoken to you.